Hello, it's Jay here again and welcome to another tutorial. So in this lesson we're going to begin creation of the load character script. And this script will just load the player game object into the scene, the player one. Now, I know we started the background manager in the last lesson. However, we've got the main bulk of that code done now, and it's going to be the same with the load character. We're going to get the bulk of the code in place, and then we're going to come back to these scripts. And we're going to make additions to each one of them that will get them all working in unison within the game. And then the game should load as it should do through all the scenes and load the correct background and the character. But let's just concentrate on getting the bulk of the code in place. And then we can work on them few additions that gets everything working smoothly. And also on another note, as you can see, this is my choose character scene. I'm just using the Robot Lab scene from the Unity Asset Store. And the reason for this is quite simple, and I've said it before in other videos, but it's worth repeating. These assets are copyright free, so that's why I am using them for the purposes of YouTube. I'm sure you can all appreciate that, but you can go ahead and use whatever models and assets you wish. So if I just hit play, let's just take a quick look. That's how my choose character scenes looking at the moment. And don't worry, when we come to doing the player movement script, that's when we'll do some coding to have the character play some animation while in this scene as well. So that is coming, so please bear with me, but let's just get everything loading into the correct scenes to begin with. And I've begun creation of my first scene, scene 0. Now we are going to have the camera move left and right, following the characters like you would do in near enough every other fighting game. For now, I'm just using a static camera just for testing so I can see how the scene looks. And obviously this one isn't finished as yet. I've been struggling for time, and this is all I've managed to get done up to now. But I'll continue on creating scenes until I have the correct amount. So let's stop that there, and with all that said, let's get on and create the script. So new C# script, and let's just call this load character, and then we'll open it for editing. We'll just get rid of that, and we'll begin by creating some variables. Now, to be honest, what the code we're going to put in this script is going to be quite repetitive in nature. However, it's one of those things, it needs to be done. So let's just, as I said, let's just go ahead and get this bulk of the code in place. So I've begun, in fact, let's make this private. We don't need to see it. I've typed game object with a capital G, and we'll say underscore player one character. We'll close that line off into the comments, so we'll say variable, variable to store chosen character. And we'll save player one because we will be adding a second player at a later date. But again, we need to get a lot more basics in place first. And then we're going to create a list of private bools. So private bool underscore return robot black. Let's just close that line off into the comments, and we'll say variable to store returned value of robot black bool. Yeah, let's put that in completely. And we're just going to copy and paste this line in 7 more times. And don't worry, I will explain how these are going to work and tie in with the other scripts. But let's just get them in place for now, and then I'll explain them. And I'm sure you've guessed, we just need to swap out the naming conventions. So this one, robot white, red, and blue, I believe's next, followed by brown, green, pink, and finally for gold. We'll just tidy up those comments, and we'll quickly change it out in the comments also. So we'll just keep going. Blue, brown, green, pink, and finally for gold. So let's just save that there, and we're going to open, just to have a look, the Choose Character Manager. So in fact, we'll open the Choose Character script as well. So we'll see how these work together. What we're going to do, and just quickly tidy those up. Unfortunately, altering some of the settings has messed up the look of my code, but I'll go through that and do it off camera. So we have these balls here that we're going to use to define what character is the player has selected. Obviously, we set them all to false on startup because the player hasn't chosen a character yet. We then come to the Choose Character script. And as you are aware, whenever each block is activated as we cycle through the characters, the rest are set to false, but the one selected is set to true. So in this case, the first one, black robot, and we set robot black to true in this script. So now this equals true. And what we're going to do is get the value of what's true and what's false within this block, and then we're going to pass that value into these variables. So if I had set the robot black to true, sets this to true, and then we're going to make this variable equal the same as that one. So how do we do that? We'll begin by coming to the void start, and we'll call that variable to begin with. So return robot black, and we're going to say it's going to be equal to the character, and let's just get rid of that, and it's actually the Choose Character Manager, sorry about that, dot underscore robot black. Let's just close that line off into the comments, and in fact let's use the proper naming conventions here. So underscore return robot black equals, we'll use this naming convention, script, and robot black bool. And I think it's fairly simple to tell how this works. We're just saying that this variable is now equal to this script, and this particular bool within that script. And I'm sure you've guessed what's coming next. We have to copy, and we have to do it for the other 7 characters. So let's just keep going, and then we'll quickly change out the naming conventions. So we'll just copy and paste in there, and we can also paste straight into the comments. So we'll do this for each and every one, and obviously once we've got these sort of scripts where we're just dealing with a lot of sort of bulk code, it's repetitive code, but once we actually get this in place, then we can actually start doing some of the more fun aspects where we get everything working together, as I said before, smoothly, and we can actually begin to see how the game starts to take shape. And I'll just tidy up the comments there, and obviously I'll need to change it in the comments here. And we will probably be working on that in the next lesson, actually, you know, getting everything working together. We have some smaller scripts to create, but they should be completed fairly quickly, and the same with the additions to these scripts, and then we can actually go through and test the game out from the splash screen to actually loading the player character in to the actual fight. Obviously we won't be able to fight at that point, but at least we can see where we've got to, and we can see everything works as it should. So with all those changed, I'm going to come right to the bottom here, and I'm going to create a new void, and let's just call this load player 1 character. As always, we'll open and close brackets, we'll open and close again, we'll come inside, we'll put in a debug log as we normally do, and I'll just copy and paste that naming convention in, and we'll come inside here. So now these variables, these bools, now store the values as they are in this script once we've chosen a character, and that lets the script know which model to load in based on the player's choice. And we do that quite simply by saying if open and close brackets, come inside those brackets, and we'll say, call the first one return robot black double equals true. We'll get that into the comments. If return robot black equals true, let's come to the next line, and that's why we created this variable here, because we need to call that variable in order to load the correct character in. So we say that the player 1 character, we're going to say it's going to be equal to instantiate open and close brackets, come inside those brackets, and we're going to say resources dot load. We'll open and close again, we'll come inside this other set of brackets, speech marks, and I'm going to say black robot. Now remember how you word it here, and I know I've said this before, but again, it's very important that they are named exactly the same as they are in the resources folder. Otherwise, your game will not work. So please make sure they are named exactly. And we'll come to the end of the line and we'll just say as a game object, again with the capital G. Let's close that line off. We'll break it up for commenting. So if the return robot black equals true, then we'll say then set player 1 character to equal the black robot and load into scene. And again, we'll copy that little block and we've got to paste it in 7 more times and do it for each character. And again, this will be called from another script, and that's what I mean by adding little lines of code to existing scripts or making very short scripts just to tie all of these together. But all we're going to do is the exact same thing in swapping out the variables. So if you feel comfortable doing that, please by all means, you can stop watching the video now and just go ahead and do that yourself. But I'm going to just continue on and just complete it all in this video. So we'll set that to white robot. And as always, while we go ahead and do this, if any of you have any questions about this series or anything about coding in general, you can always leave a comment below, or you can send me a private message and I will always do my best to answer for you. And even if that question doesn't pertain to anything we are doing in this series, I will still try and help if you have any coding questions. And I think it's worth mentioning at this point as well, is once we've got to a certain point in this series, and please don't worry, because I am going to spend a fair number of the coming lessons actually just putting in new code and moving the game along. But at some point we'll have to come back. There is code and tweaks I wish to have, again, just for the sake of polishing up the actual game. Because as I've always said, that I want to deliver a polished product at the end of this. That hopefully once you've all completed this series, you actually end up with a game that people will really want to play. So that does require a lot of code in order to really polish the game to make it a more slick product, probably a good way of wording it. But I hope you'll bear with me. We'll always try and do that in little chunks while continuing to move the game forward. But anyway, I've gone ahead and I've changed all of these. I'll leave it up on screen if you want to pause the video and just check what I have done. But otherwise, this video is getting quite long, so I think we'll leave it here for now. So, as always, I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I hope to see you next time. And until then, as always, bye for now.